Chapter 1. The Crisis. The ground trembled beneath Sarah's feet as she raced down the crumbling street, her heart pounding in her chest. The once familiar city had transformed into a hellscape of shattered buildings and panicked crowds. "Sarah, wait up!" Michael called out from behind her, his voice strained. Sarah glanced over her shoulder, her eyes wide with fear. "We can't stop, Michael. The evacuation ships are leaving soon." "And Michael caught up to her, his face smeared with dirt and sweat. "Do you really think they'll let us on? They're only taking the rich and powerful." "We have to try," Sarah insisted, her voice cracking. "It's our only chance." A deafening roar filled the air, and they both looked up to see a massive fireball streaking across the sky. The asteroid, the harbinger of Earth's doom, was drawing closer by the second. "Oh my God," Michael whispered, his face pale. "It's really happening." Sarah grabbed his hand, pulling him forward. "Come on, we need to keep moving." They sprinted through the chaos, dodging falling debris and pushing past terrified civilians. The evacuation center loomed ahead, a towering structure surrounded by armed guards. "Halt!" a guard shouted as they approached, raising his weapon. "This area is restricted." Sarah stepped forward, her hands raised. "Please, we need to get on a ship. We have nowhere else to go." The guard sneered, his eyes cold. "Sorry, but the ships are full. You should have been born into a better family." Michael's face reddened with anger. "You can't just leave us here to die." The guard shrugged, unmoved. "Not my problem. Now get lost before I make you." Sarah's shoulders slumped in defeat, tears stinging her eyes. She turned to Mikhail, ready to accept their fate, when a sudden commotion erupted behind the guard. A woman in a lab coat burst through the doors, her eyes scanning the crowd frantically. "Wait! We need more volunteers for the Phoenix Project!" Sarah and Michael exchanged a confused glance. "The Phoenix Project?" Sarah asked. "What's that?" The woman approached them, her voice low and urgent. "It's a secret government initiative to send a group of survivors to a new planet. We need people with skills like yours, Sarah." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. "How do you know my name?" The woman smiled cryptically. "We've been watching you. Your engineering skills and resourcefulness are exactly what we need." Michael stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "What about me? I'm not leaving without Sarah." The woman nodded. "You can come too, Michael. We need all the help we can get." Sarah and Michael looked at each other, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. The Phoenix Project was their last chance, a desperate gamble for survival. "We're in," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. As they followed the woman into the evacuation center, the ground shook with another violent tremor. The asteroid was almost upon them, but Sarah and Michael knew that their journey was just beginning. They had no idea what dangers and revelations awaited them on their quest to find a new home among the stars. But one thing was certain: Earth was lost, and their only hope lay in the unknown depths of space. Chapter 2. The Escape. Sarah and Michael followed the woman in the lab coat through the winding corridors of the evacuation center, their hearts racing with a mix of fear and anticipation. The ground shuddered beneath their feet, a constant reminder of the impending doom that loomed over Earth. "Where are we going?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. The woman glanced back at them, her eyes filled with a sense of urgency. "To the launching bay. The Phoenix Project ship is ready for departure." Michael frowned, his brow furrowed. "How come we've never heard of this project before?" "It's been kept under wraps," the woman explained. "Only a select few know about it. We couldn't risk causing a panic." As they rounded a corner, they found themselves in a vast hangar, where a sleek silver spacecraft stood ready. Scientists and engineers bustled around the ship, making final preparations. Sarah's eyes widened in awe. "Is that it? The ship that will take us to a new planet?" The woman nodded. "Yes, the Phoenix. It's equipped with state-of-the-art technology and enough resources to sustain the crew for the journey." Michael's gaze swept across the hangar, taking in the controlled chaos. "How many people are going?" Only 100, the woman replied. We had to be selective. Each person has a specific skill set that will be crucial for the mission's success. Sarah's heart sank as she realized the implication of the woman's words. 100 out of billions? The woman's expression turned somber. I know it's not fair, but we had to make difficult choices. We can't save everyone. Suddenly a deafening boom echoed through the hangar, and the ground heaved violently. Screams filled the air as people stumbled and fell. The asteroid! Someone shouted. It's entering the atmosphere! The woman's face paled, and she grabbed Sarah and Michael by the arms. We need to go, now! They raced towards the Phoenix, dodging falling debris and pushing past panicked scientists. The ship's ramp lowered, and they sprinted up, their hearts pounding in their chests. Inside the ship, a crew member directed them to their seats. Sarah and Michael strapped themselves in, their hands shaking. Sarah, Michael said, his voice low and urgent. I need to tell you something. Sarah turned to him, her eyes filled with fear and confusion. What is it? Michael swallowed hard, his gaze intense. I love you, Sarah. I have for a long time. I just needed you to know, in case... Sarah's heart skipped a beat, and she reached out, clasping Michael's hand tightly. I love you too, Michael. We're going to make it through this together. The ship's engines roared to life, and the Phoenix lifted off the ground, ascending rapidly through the atmosphere. Sarah and Michael held onto each other as the force of the acceleration pressed them back into their seats. Through the viewports, they caught a final glimpse of Earth, their once beautiful blue planet now engulfed in flames and destruction. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she watched her home, and everything she had ever known crumbled before her eyes. As the Phoenix broke free from Earth's atmosphere and entered the vast expanse of space, Sarah and Michael knew that their old lives were gone forever. They were now part of the 100, the chosen few tasked with finding a new home for humanity. And the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges and secrets, but in that moment, Sarah and Michael found solace in each other's presence, clinging to the hope that somewhere out there, a new beginning awaited them. Chapter 3. The New World. The Phoenix hurtled through the vast expanse of space, its sleek silver hull gleaming in the starlight. Inside the ship, Sarah and Michael huddled together, their eyes fixed on the view screen that displayed their destination. A distant, Earth-like planet known as Kepler 452d. Do you think it will be like Earth? Sarah asked, her voice tinged with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Michael squeezed her hand reassuringly. I hope so. The scientists said it has the right conditions for life. As the ship approached the planet, a voice crackled over the intercom. Attention all passengers. We will be entering Kepler 4552b's atmosphere in 10 minutes. Brace for turbulence. Sarah and Michael exchanged a nervous glance as the ship began to shake, the hull groaning under the strain of atmospheric entry. The view screen filled with flames as the Phoenix plunged through the planet's atmosphere, its heat shields glowing red-hot. After what felt like an eternity, the ship finally broke through the clouds, revealing a sprawling landscape of lush green forests and crystal-clear lakes. Sarah gasped in awe, her eyes wide with wonder. It's beautiful, she whispered. The Phoenix touched down on a grassy plain, its landing gear sinking into the soft earth. The ramp lowered, and the passengers stepped out, blinking in the bright sunlight. Sarah and Michael joined the others as they explored their new surroundings, marveling at the strange plants and creatures that populated the planet. The air was sweet and clean, and the gravity felt similar to Earth's. We did it, Michael said, a grin spreading across his face. We found a new home. But their joy was short-lived. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they discovered the remnants of an ancient alien civilization, crumbling ruins and strange, glowing artifacts that pulsed with an eerie energy. "What is this place?" Sarah murmured, her voice filled with unease. Suddenly a piercing scream echoed through the forest, followed by the sound of weapons fire. Sarah and Michael exchanged a look of horror before racing towards the source of the commotion. They burst into a clearing where they found a group of their fellow survivors locked in a fierce battle with a horde of grotesque, insectoid creatures. The monsters screeched and chittered as they swarmed over the humans, their razor-sharp claws tearing through flesh and bone. "Help us!" one of the survivors cried out, his face contorted in pain and terror. Sarah and Michael leapt into action, grabbing weapons from the fallen and joining the fray. They fought side by side, their movements fluid and synchronized as they cut down the creatures one by one. But the monsters kept coming, wave after wave of them pouring out from the depths of the forest. Sarah and Michael found themselves being pushed back, their ammunition running low. "We can't hold them off much longer," Michael shouted over the chaos. Just as all hope seemed lost, a brilliant beam of light erupted from the ruins, engulfing the clearing in a blinding white glow. The monsters let out an unholy shriek before disintegrating into ash, their bodies crumbling away to nothing. Sarah and Michael stood panting, their weapons still raised, as they tried to make sense of what had just happened. The other survivors gathered around them, their faces a mix of relief and confusion. "What was that?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "I don't know," Michael replied, his eyes fixed on the ruins. "But I have a feeling that this planet holds more secrets than we ever could have imagined." As they stood there, surrounded by the eerie silence of the forest, Sarah and Michael knew that their fight for survival had only just begun. The new world they had found was not the paradise they had hoped for, but a place of danger and mystery that would test them in ways they never could have imagined. Chapter 4. The Revelation. In the days that followed the attack, Sarah and Michael worked tirelessly alongside the other survivors to establish a makeshift settlement on Kepler 452b. They salvaged supplies from the Phoenix and built shelters from the abundant resources the planet provided. But even as they struggled to create a new home, the mysteries of the alien ruins continued to haunt them. Sarah, driven by her insatiable curiosity, spent long hours studying the strange artifacts they had discovered, trying to decipher their purpose and origin. One evening, as the twin moons of Kepler 452b hung low in the sky, Sarah burst into the settlement, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. "Michael!" she called out, her voice trembling. "I've found something. Something big." Michael rushed to her side, his brow furrowed with concern. "What is it, Sarah? What did you find?" Sarah held up a small glowing device, its surface etched with intricate alien symbols. "This," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's a message, a warning." The other survivors gathered around them, their faces filled with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Sarah activated the device, and a holographic image sprang to life, depicting a tall, slender alien with luminous eyes and translucent skin. "Greetings, survivors of Earth," the alien spoke, its voice resonating with an otherworldly echoes. "If you are seeing this message, then you have found refuge on our ancient homeworld. But be warned, for you are not alone." The image shifted, revealing a massive, pulsating biomechanical structure that seemed to stretch for miles beneath the planet's surface. "Our civilization once thrived on this world, but we were forced to flee when a great evil emerged from the depths of the planet. An ancient, malevolent intelligence that consumed all in its path. We sealed it away, but we fear that your arrival may have awakened it once more." Sarah and Michael exchanged a look of horror, their hearts pounding in their chests. The other survivors murmured in fear and confusion, their eyes wide with terror. "You must find a way to stop it," the alien continued, its voice growing more urgent. "For if it breaks free, it will not only consume your new home, but spread its darkness across the stars, devouring all life in its wake." The hologram flickered and died, leaving them in stunned silence. Sarah clutched the device to her chest, her mind reeling with the implications of what they had just learned. "This changes everything," Michael said, his voice low and grave. "We're not just fighting for our own survival anymore. We're fighting for the fate of the entire galaxy." Sarah nodded, her eyes blazing with determination. "We have to find a way to stop this thing. Whatever it takes." As the survivors dispersed, each grappling with the weight of the revelation, Sarah and Michael knew that their mission had taken on a new level of urgency. They were no longer just refugees seeking a new home, but the last line of defense against an ancient cosmic horror. In the days that followed, Sarah threw herself into her research, poring over the alien artifacts and texts, searching for any clue that might lead them to a way to defeat the malevolent intelligence. Michael rallied the survivors, organizing them into teams to fortify their defenses and prepare for the coming battle. But even as they worked tirelessly to face the looming threat, Sarah and Michael knew that their greatest challenge lay not in the alien technology or the eldritch horror that stalked the planet's depths, but in the darkness that lurked within their own hearts, for in the face of annihilation, they would be forced to confront the depths of their own humanity and the choices they would have to make to ensure the survival of their species. The revelation had changed everything, and Sarah and Michael knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and they were the only ones who could tip the scales in favor of life and light. Chapter 5. The Transformation. As the truth about the ancient evil that lurked beneath the planet's surface sank in, Sarah and Michael found themselves grappling with a profound sense of despair. The weight of their responsibility crushed down upon them, and they began to question whether they were truly up to the task of saving not only themselves, but the entire galaxy. Sarah, in particular, found herself haunted by the choices she had made back on Earth, the people she had left behind, the sacrifices she had made to secure her place on the Phoenix. The guilt gnawed at her, eating away at her resolve. One evening, as she sat alone in her makeshift laboratory, poring over the alien texts, Sarah finally broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she confronted the true depths of her own selfishness and cowardice. "I can't do this," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm not strong enough. I'm not brave enough." Suddenly a warm hand settled on her shoulder, and she looked up to see Michael standing beside her, his eyes filled with understanding and compassion. "You're not alone, Sarah," he said softly, kneeling down to meet her gaze. "We're in this together, and you are strong enough. You're the strongest person I know." Sarah shook her head, the tears still flowing. "But the things I've done, Michael, the people I've hurt, how can I possibly atone for that?" Michael cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle and reassuring. "By being better. By rising above your past and becoming the person you were always meant to be. The person I know you are." In that moment, something shifted within Sarah. A spark of hope, of determination, ignited in her heart. She realized that she had been given a second chance, an opportunity to make things right, and she was not going to waste it. Sarah wiped away her tears and stood up, her eyes blazing with a newfound sense of purpose. "You're right, Michael. We can do this. We have to do this." Together, Sarah and Michael rallied the survivors, sharing with them the plan they had devised to defeat the ancient evil. It would require them to descend into the very heart of the biomechanical structure, to face the malevolent intelligence head-on. They knew the risks were great, that some of them might not make it back. But they also knew that the alternative was unthinkable. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for the future of all life in the galaxy. As they prepared for the final battle, Sarah and Michael stood side by side, their hands clasped tightly together. They had come so far, endured so much, and now they were ready to face their greatest challenge yet. Sarah looked out over the assembled survivors, her heart swelling with pride and determination. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every living being in the universe, Today, we prove that hope is stronger than fear, that light can triumph over darkness. Today we become the heroes we were always meant to be."
A cheer went up from the crowd, a roar of defiance and courage that echoed across the alien landscape. And with that, they set out, marching towards their destiny, ready to face whatever lay ahead.
As they descended into the depths of the planet, Sarah and Michael knew that they were no longer the same people they had been when they first arrived on Kepler 452b. They had been transformed by their experiences, by the bonds they had forged, by the love they had discovered in each other. And as they stood on the threshold of the final battle, they knew that whatever happened, they would face it together. For they had found something worth fighting for, something worth dying for. They had found a reason to hope, to believe, to dream of a better future. And in that moment Sarah and Michael knew that they were ready to become the heroes they had always been meant to be. Chapter 6. The New Beginning. The battle was fierce and brutal, a desperate struggle against an enemy that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. Sarah and Michael fought side by side, their weapons blazing, their hearts pounding in unison as they faced the malevolent intelligence head-on. Around them, their fellow survivors fell one by one, their screams of pain and terror echoing through the twisted corridors of the biomechanical structure. But Sarah and Michael pressed on, driven by a determination that burned brighter than the stars themselves. At last, they reached the heart of the structure, a vast, pulsating chamber filled with an eerie, sickly light. And there, they confronted the source of the ancient evil, a writhing mass of darkness and chaos that seemed to consume all hope and light. Sarah and Michael poured everything they had into the fight, their weapons and their will joined in a final, desperate assault. And against all odds, they prevailed. With a blinding flash of light and a deafening roar, the malevolent intelligence was vanquished, its hold on the planet broken forever. But the victory had come at a great cost. As Sarah and Michael emerged from the ruins of the structure, they found themselves surrounded by the bodies of their fallen comrades, the brave souls who had given their lives to ensure the survival of the galaxy. In the days that followed, Sarah and Michael worked tirelessly to rebuild their settlement, to create a new home for the survivors of Earth. They mourned the lost, honored their sacrifice, and vowed to carry on their legacy. As the weeks turned into months and the months into years, the settlement on Kepler 452b thrived. Under Sarah and Michael's leadership, the survivors built a new society, one founded on the principles of compassion, cooperation, and hope. They explored the wonders of their new world, forging a deep connection with the alien landscape and the creatures that called it home. They studied the remnants of the ancient civilization that had once thrived there, learning from their wisdom and their mistakes. And through it all, Sarah and Michael's love for each other only grew stronger. They had been through so much together, had faced the very worst that the universe had to offer, and they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more deeply committed to each other than ever before. One evening, as the twin moons of Kepler 452b hung low in the sky, Sarah and Michael stood hand in hand on a hilltop overlooking their settlement. The lights of the colony twinkled below them, a beacon of hope and life in the vast darkness of space. "We did it," Sarah whispered, her voice filled with wonder and gratitude. "We found a new home. We saved the galaxy." Michael smiled, his eyes shining with love and pride. "We did it together. You and me, Sarah, always." They embraced, their hearts beating as one, their souls forever entwined. And as they looked out over the world they had fought so hard to protect, they knew that their journey was far from over. For they had not just survived, but thrived. They had not just endured, but flourished. They had become the heroes they were always meant to be, the guardians of a new era of peace and prosperity for all life in the galaxy. And as the stars wheeled overhead, Sarah and Michael knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For they had found something worth living for, something worth fighting for. They had found a love that could light the way through even the darkest of nights. They had found a new beginning, a chance to start anew, to build a better world for themselves and for generations to come. And with that knowledge, that hope, that unshakable faith in each other and in the power of the human spirit, Sarah and Michael stepped forward into the future, ready to face whatever lay ahead. For they knew that as long as they had each other, as long as they held fast to the bonds of love and courage that had brought them this far, there was nothing they could not overcome. There was no darkness they could not illumine, no evil they could not vanquish, no dream they could not make real. They were the survivors, the pioneers, the heroes of a new age, and their story was only just beginning.